Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's Tech Talk, Microsoft Outlook Contacts and MailMerge. Our presenter today is Margie Hertneck, Senior Analyst at CPS HR Consulting. For your convenience, we have included a handout in your webinar dashboard. Feel free to download the handout for use as a reference. We will also forward a link to the recording of today's session when it's available. And now, without further ado, let's get started. Margie?
Hi guys, and thanks for joining us. I have been working with Microsoft Office products for as long as they have been around, basically. And it's very handy to know how to do the Outlook email merge. To start off with, let me fix that misnomer right off the bat. You actually use and start with Microsoft Word when you're building your email, not within Outlook. Now, the very first thing that I usually do is I actually, rather than starting the email body, I start with the contact list. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's go to a previously created source list. And I've created mine in Excel. But you don't have to start with Excel. You can start with an Access database. You can use a different database and make that connection as your source material. You can even use your Outlook contacts as source material as well. So here we have my list, which is about 3 or 4 people here. For demonstration purposes, I have created a false email address as well. And we'll see what happens a little later when you use that false email address. We have a salutation, first name, last name, the organization that the person's with, the products that we in our sample company here have sent to them, whether they've paid for those products using zeros and ones just for ease of use, and of course their email address. The only critical column here that you have to have is the email address. You could have additional columns that you're not even going to use in your email if you want. Always create this first, check for misspellings, check for misused addresses. Just go ahead and make sure that this is all good before you close it. So now I'm going to close my Excel file. And then I'm going to create an email message. This I'm creating in Word. And again, for ease of demonstration, I've already created it, or at least partially created it. I've created my email body here, and I've got some placeholders here, Val, name, agency, product. And I also have a condition in here that we're going to create because I'm not sure whether I want to send the same message to those who've paid versus those who haven't. So the first thing you want to do is connect your source to your email body. You do that by going up to Mailing and select Recipients. This is where you get the option to choose from Outlook contacts if you wish, or you can actually type a new list from this point, but I really don't recommend it. Really, the preferred way to do it is to use an existing list. So that's what we're going to do. It kind of throws you out here in the boonies, if you will. Where you want to go is somewhere on your local drive. For us, that's Downloads. That's a folder actually on my C drive. And I'm going to select my list. It's going to ask me which sheet in my work file do I want to use. There's only one sheet, so that makes it easy. All right. With that, some of the items up in the ribbon start showing up. So before we continue, you can edit your recipient list. If you decide you don't want to send to everybody in your list, this is the best place to go ahead and limit who you send it to. So if I wanted to, I could unclick all of them and just select the ones that I want to send to. You can also filter. So for instance, I could say only select those where product equals 0 or product equals 1. If you had dates in one of your columns, you might be able to filter on dates. In this case, we're going to go ahead and send to the full 4 folks on the list. I'm going to say OK. And now I want to insert the merge fields. I'm going to use my placeholders to put these in. So Sal for salutation. I'm going to go up to Insert Merge Field and select Salutation. I'm going to make sure to put my space in here. For last name, I'm going to select last name. Oh, too many spaces. Really watch those spaces. That's a common item that gets messed up as you're putting in your merge fields in place of your placeholders. For agency, I select organization. Note that they don't have to be spelled exactly the same way as your placeholders. And then product, right here. And then condition. Okay, for condition, I can use different rules to customize the body of my email. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to rules, and I'm going to use if, then, else. Select that statement. So I'm going to say, what condition is it that I'm looking for? So if paid equals 0, which means they didn't pay, then what text do I want to use? Well, down here I kind of put some highlighted information so I'd easily be able to retrieve that and put receiving or payment. Now, if it doesn't meet that condition, I want it to say working with you in the future. And of course, there's only it's an if, then, else statement for a reason. It's a binary. There's only 2 ways you can have it. You can either have it option 1 or option 2. You can't have additional options at this point. What you can do, though, is you can put in multiple if, then, else statements. So if I had another paragraph that I wanted to put additional conditional information, I could do that. I'm going to get rid of this highlighted stuff that I used as a crutch. And here's our email body completed. Hello, salutation, last name. Really appreciate our relationship with organization and are happy with our long-standing relationship. You recently ordered product from us. Thank you, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Notice there aren't any brackets around this. If you click on it, though, put your cursor in it, it's going to highlight in gray, and you'll notice that the conditional statement that you put in based on the condition of the very first statement. All right, so let's say I want to see what it looks like before I send it. Up here under preview results, you're going to select that, and it'll give you a preview of your information. These are the pages you can page through for all the different rows in your contact list, and you can see how they change. Now this is still highlighted only because I have my cursor in there. If I move my cursor, the highlight comes off. So Ms. Rose had paid, so we look forward to working with her in the future. But Chief Hillenbaum has not paid yet, so we look forward to receiving his payment. There's the difference. You can also use check for errors to see if there are any specific errors happening. I highly suggest that you use simulate the merge and report errors in a new document. If there are some errors that Outlook is going to catch, then it'll pop it up here. I do not suggest selecting complete the merge, then finding out where your errors are. I don't even know why they have that button in there. All right, so you've reviewed it. Everything looks good. There's spaces where there's supposed to be. There's no typos. The fields that it's pulling from flow with the context of the paragraph and sentences. You're good to go. Next thing you want to do is go up to Finish and Merge. There are three options up here. You have Edit Individual Documents. So that's a good way if you want to use this merge for reports or labels or things like that. You can print the documents if you just wanted to print out some letters. But what we're going to use is send email messages. Okay, so you want to specify the column that your email addresses are in. It will try to guess itself. As you can see, it defaulted to email address. This is where you're going to put your subject line in. I'm using "Thank you for your patronage." It's the only subject line that you can use. You can only use one subject line. And then the mail format, you can also select. This can be provided as an attachment. The email body can be an attachment to an email. You can include just plain text in the body of the email, or you can say HTML. If you're going to use a logo or have some sort of image in it, you're definitely going to want to select HTML. And I want to send all records. You can select specific records here, but again, I prefer edit recipient length if you're going to do that. So then I say OK. So how do we know that it goes? This is going to be how we know. I'm going to close up our email here. And then we're going to go to Outlook. And if you look in the sent items, these are the different emails that just went out based on our contact list. Now I want to point out that one of them did have that false email. So I did get a bounce. Jborn wasn't found at this particular domain. So if that's the case, you're going to need to go back and correct that contact. And this is where the selection of your contact, selecting which rows, may come in handy when you resend again. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, that's great, Margie. Thank you. And actually, it looks like we do have some questions coming in. So here's someone that wants to know, can you blind copy recipients in a MailMerge?
Unfortunately, you can't. Not in the out-of-the-box Microsoft merge. What you can do, though, is if you go out on the web, you can do a search on MailMerge add-in, and a couple of third-party apps will come up. Usually you have to pay a small fee for them. That will enable you to have a little bit more flexibility regarding how you copy or blind copy, your subject line, things like that. So they are out there, but out of the can, right the way it is, no, you can't.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Someone else is asking, how can I send attachments in a MailMerge? Is that possible?
Unfortunately, that also is not possible. There are definitely limitations with it. And this is part of why a third party might be helpful. But I know in my experience, I've been quite satisfied with just the canned version, the straight out of Microsoft version. It met a lot of my needs.
Okay. Oh, here's another one. Someone asking, can your contact source list be a Word doc? You mentioned Excel, you mentioned Outlook. Is Word someplace you can have your source list?
You know, honestly, I don't know on that. I would have to check, but I don't think so. I believe it should be in some sort of database or an Excel file or some sort of CSV file. You might be able to, if you have it in Microsoft and you have it in a table, a lot of times you're able to highlight that table and then cut and paste it into an Excel spreadsheet. And the Excel spreadsheet is intuitive enough to know that you need those in different fields.
Okay.
So that's what I would suggest
that's
in
great.
addressing that.
Okay, and here's another one. How many emails can I send out at once since it's going through Outlook?
Okay. I'm going to address two things regarding that. The first one is that I believe the limit is 200. So that's adequate for most folks who are just doing day-to-day work and who aren't necessarily in like a membership role or a marketing role. What I do recommend, though, even if you're doing less than 200, if you're going over 100, I highly recommend that you check with your IT department, because sometimes when you send a bulk email blast out like that, other agencies can read that as spam, and then they will blacklist your domain. And so you don't want that to happen to your agency. So if you're going to do a bulk email that really is going to be pushing a lot of them out the door, about 100 perhaps, then I would check with your IT department on that just to get the thumbs up, make sure that there's not a problem regarding blacklisting.
Okay, terrific. And looks like just one more came in asking about including a signature line with a logo. How can you do that?
Actually, that shouldn't be an issue. As you saw in mine here, in fact, I'll go to the email I sent here. I did put a little smiley face in here. So an image, if you have a logo, it's just another image. I believe there's a variety of different images that will work. And you'll just put your signature line in there, have your logo in there. Make sure when you hit email send, under the final disposition, that you make sure it's an HTML format. That way that logo will show, that image will show.
Okay, terrific. Well, it looks like that's all of the questions that we have for today. So I want to thank you, Margie, for this really enlightening presentation. We all appreciate learning how to do a mail merge in Outlook. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. Again, we will send an email with a link to the recording to today's session. Thank you. Have a good day.